The reason why you're struggling with speed and control with your right foot might actually have less to do with physical strength and technique and more to do with something else. If you found yourself literally hating your right foot because it just causes all the problems in your drumming, and you're frustrated because it's just not getting any better, don't worry, because I've got you covered today. I'm teaching you a powerful, most influential exercise as well as a key prerequisite that really could be your golden ticket to precision and freedom on the kick drum. You can do this. Hey, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out with me today. I help beginner and intermediate drummers become the musicians that others want to play with and actually want to listen to. And we do this by teaching you the core drumming skills that save you hours in the practice room and then get you results faster. And hey, if you are a beginner drummer especially, or even if you're more intermediate or pushing toward advanced, but maybe there's some holes in your coordination skill. Maybe you can't quite play everything you hear in your head. You struggle to play that kick drum pattern right that you're trying to play. And you're trying to think about one thing and then another limb's falling apart. If you feel like you're having to work too hard when you're playing the drums and you're just on the edge of train wreck, then most likely you just need to build some coordination. So I want you to check out my totally free PDF e-guide in the description. It's called 30 Days to 4-Way Rock Coordination for the Beginner Drummer. This is gonna help you out a whole bunch. What this helps you do is learn one new groove every day, building 4-way limb independence along the way. Before you know it, you'll be playing syncopated kick snare patterns that help lead you toward being able to creatively improvise, and that's huge. And all of this is happening while building autopilot left foot timekeeping that glues your grooves together. This is so cool. This is so game changing. This is going to help you out a bunch so that you can play what you hear in your head. That's the big idea here. So if that's you, if that's what you know you need to work on, go dive into that. It's totally free in the description. All right, on with today's lesson. Today, you can go from a sloppy, hard to control right foot to a precise, quick right foot that plays what you want to play, that allows you to play the kick patterns you want to play, even if there's some kick doubles and some quick stuff involved. That is my goal for you today, and you will absolutely be able to do that if you work on what I'm going to teach you today. I'm going to share with you this big prerequisite that just might be your golden ticket to really having more freedom and fluidity on the kick drum. And then from there, we'll break down this exercise that will really help tie in the kick with your hands. It's going to be super helpful. So let's dive in. So the prerequisite that you may need to start with, and this kind of stems from the fact that the big problem here that so many beginners and intermediate drummers have when working on kick is that they rush into speed and coordination building, which really just keeps you stuck. So kind of a twofold thing here. Number one is if you want to build up kick speed and build your kick technique and build up strength, like leg strength, foot strength, ankle strength, and be able to play the faster doubles and the quick kick patterns, all the things that you want to play, you have to not really just be able to play doubles, but you have to be able to play singles. If you can't play your singles well on the kick, then how are you going to play doubles? This is something that we went in depth with in a recent lesson. I'm going to link below because if this is you, that's where I want you to focus. But I told you this was twofold. The second thing is that coordination is built at slow tempos. And if you're trying to get your right foot coordinated with other things and you're not getting super slow and really methodical and intentional and listening carefully when you practice, then you're probably not ever going to get your right foot locked in as well as you want to. And so that's really where we're heading here. Number one is practice singles. Make sure that your singles are sounding good before you even attempt today's big exercise. And make sure that you're able to play them slowly and moderately, quietly, and loudly. And again, we go in depth with this in a recent lesson that I'm linking in the description. But just to give you the quick crash course on this, make sure that you're able to be able to do that, maybe go a little faster, as well as softer. Because the big thing I want you to get used to doing is having the beater in a steady motion like that, where it's just bouncing, it's smoothly in motion. And then slower, quieter, louder. What you want to do is make sure there are no holes in your kick drum singles game. If there's a certain tempo where you struggle, a certain volume that you struggle at, target that, fix that. And that's going to be your key, your biggest key to success if the issue is maybe strength or control down here with your foot. But odds are if you've got that under control, and if you've dug into that previous lesson that's in the description, and you've got most of that squared away, sure, it might be a work in progress, but your right foot's feeling okay, you can play your singles, then at that point, the most likely struggle that's keeping you from playing what you want to play and that's keeping your foot feeling sloppy actually has nothing to do with your right leg or your right foot. And that's where we're ultimately going in the meat of today's lesson. So let's get into this, the powerful bass drum exercise for more speed and control, because the big challenge might actually be in coordinating your right foot with your hands. Many drummers struggle with that coordination aspect, whether the right foot is wanting to follow the right hand and glue itself to the right hand, which is kind of a good thing, but then a bad thing when you need it to offset from your hand. But also the kick drum needs to be able to lock with the left hand, not just the right hand, but also the left hand. And that's a tricky relationship, right foot and left hand. And so it needs to be able to lock in with either hand. And generally, that's where things get sloppy. And we hear flamming where we've got, and things just aren't locked tightly the way we need them to be. And so that might be your issue. Once you've got your right foot doing what it's supposed to, it becomes a mental thing. You've got to make sure that you are listening to your kick, listening to your hands, and intentionally locking stuff together. But thankfully, I've got an exercise here that's going to help streamline this and just give you some very focused practice. The key here, again, is listening. Whenever I give you an exercise, the goal is not just to play the exercise and play it at a couple tempos. Okay, check that box, done for today. The goal is to listen carefully, pay attention, and ask yourself, how is this sounding? Am I locking together? And the big thing is go slowly, because like I said a minute ago, coordination is built at slow tempos. If you go too fast, your brain can't process it. I'm not saying you're not smart enough. I'm speaking from my own experience. I remember when I was in high school, I could play all sorts of fast stuff that was kind of flashy, and I could impress my friends with whatever, flashy nonsense I could play that wasn't really practical. But it was all sloppy, and it didn't sound good. It wasn't that difficult for me to play these things, but if I slowed those things down and tried to play them well with a metronome at half the tempo, I couldn't do it. It was a train wreck. It fell apart. So did I really have the coordination at that point? I wouldn't say so. That's the big question. Whenever you can play something, can you really play it? The way to find out is to slow the tempo down a bunch. Can you play it slowly and cleanly with the metronome just as well as you can play it quickly? Because a lot of times we can play stuff fast and we're kind of just hanging in there and it's sounding okay, but is our brain fully aware of what each limb is doing? Probably not, unless we practice really slowly. You've got to give your brain time to digest this. Give your brain time to learn exactly what each limb is doing. So we do these things by slow practice where we're being intentional and we're actively listening. That is absolutely the key here. So we're going to intentionally, that's our word here, intentionally practice tying our right foot in with our hands with this exercise that I like to call the shifting kick pairs exercise. This is nothing new and creative. You may have seen this before. Definitely not something I made up. At some point, I think I heard this from somebody else, learned it from somebody else. But the idea is that we're just going to play alternating 16th note singles on the snare, gung, 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 nice and slow. And we're going to lock in these kick drum pairs with those notes, which means every time we play the kick, we're playing with the right hand and also with the left hand. That's a relationship that can be tricky. Like I mentioned earlier, right foot and left hand. And so if there's any issue there, here's what I want you to do very first. Practice just doing this. Right, left, or you're playing the kick with the right and with the left. Right, left. So how is that feeling? Is anything flamming? Is right hand locking in? If so, awesome. If not, just focus on right hand, right foot. And by the way, you don't have to hit the snare. You can hit something else that's a little tighter and quieter so you can hear the kick better. Volumes maybe. Okay, that's locked in. Cool. Now do the same thing with the left hand. If there's any flamming, just practice paying attention to that. Like, okay, is my right foot late? Okay, let's push a little earlier. Is my right foot rushing? Okay, lay it back a little bit. Listen and pay attention to these things. Listening is the thing that I can't make you do. You have to do that. You have to take action on deciding, all right, I'm going to really listen to what I'm doing. That way you can become your own teacher and you can make fast progress. Nobody else can spoon feed these things to you. You can't just, read a book, learn a quick hack and be able to do it. You've got to listen. You've got to really focus here. But you are absolutely capable of doing it because this is a learned skill. My playing was sloppy. Now it's significantly less sloppy because I worked at this. And so if you want to get your playing precise and tight, this is how you do it. So focus on that, and then let's roll into the exercise. So what we'll do here is play a measure of 1E and 2E, 3E, like that on the kick, and then we're just going to shift it a 16th later to 1E and 2E and 3E and shift it another 16th to 1E and 2E and then our final shift that gives us a 1E and 2E and 3 and so on, and then at that point we can repeat. So I'm going to play this. I had intended to play it on the snare just because it makes sense to just play on the snare, but it's easier to hear the tightness and the relationship here between hands and foot if you do it on the hats. So you could either do it on a practice pad or maybe do it on your snare with the snares off and put some muffling on it, or just play on your hats. The main point here is we want to be able to really listen to our hands locked in with our foot. That's the goal. So we're going to go nice and slow here, 60 beats a minute. You can absolutely go slower if you need to, because the goal here is precision and quality, not quantity, not speed. Remember, coordination is built at slow tempos. So here we go. We're going to go 60 beats a minute. I'll loop through this a couple times. Feel free to play along with me. Now, if you're diving into this and you're like, Steven, this is hard, I need to go even slower, that's totally fine. Like I said, go really slow. You don't have to play along with me just yet, but know that you can simplify this. So instead of doing kick doubles right off the bat, instead of doing pairs of kick drum notes, you can just do them one at a time. So we can just go 1 and 2, and then shift to the E's, and then the ands, and then the uhs, just with one kick note at a time, so that we're still focusing on locking the kick with either hand, but we're just not having to worry about as many notes. And so if you're more beginner stage and you're new to really getting your kick coordinated with your hands, this might be the place for you to start. So let's do the same exercise, but just with single kick drum notes instead of pairs. You might find this is a little bit easier to more quickly play along with me, and you can really target the relationship of, again, right hand, right foot, and left hand, right foot, individually. So here we go, same tempo, 60 beats a minute. And so on. I won't deny that this is difficult at first, but if you really focus on getting that locked in, this gives you the potential to play so many cool things. So here's where you can go with this, kind of a bonus step. You can literally take these exact exercises we've just done. So we're playing alternating 16ths on the hi-hats or on the snare, wherever you want to play them, and we've got these kick drum patterns happening. You can then add snare hits on 2 and 4, and suddenly we've got a groove. Now, if you can play, so going back to the shifting pairs, if you can play the shifting pairs exercise and play those variations where it shifts all the way across the beat with backbeats on 2 and 4, then that means in theory you can play any kick pattern underneath an alternating 16th hi-hat pattern. That's pretty cool. And likewise, even if you can do it just with the kick singles, that means that you can place kick notes anywhere on the beat in the midst of a 16th note groove. That's really powerful. So at that point you can start creating things like, or you can do that on every beat, go, So you could play through it that way and do the same thing just with the singles, or you could just do eighth notes on the hi-hats. You could play and go like that, or you could do one-handed 16ths. If we did it with just the kick drum singles, and it might be like this. You get the idea. I'm leaving the snares off because I don't have my in-ears in and it's super loud. You get the idea what you can do there. Literally taking those exact same exercises, playing through them again, and just adding snare notes on 2 and 4. Whether that means right hand reaching down, or maybe you're playing just one-handed 8ths or one-handed 16ths here. You can get creative. And I'll be honest with you, my most successful students that I've worked with, whether in groups or one-on-one, are the students who not only take these exercises and run with them, and they get game-changing results just from the exercise, but they also improvise on these. They make these their own, and they figure out, all right, what else can I do with this? Like, how can I get creative with this? Hey, I can move my right hand to the ride. What if I add in some left foot timekeeping? What if I turn this into a tom groove? That kind of creative thinking is what makes you a great drummer and what helps you grow faster. That's what you've got to be able to do. I can't spoon feed everything to you. I want to be your coach and your teacher, and I want to help you out here and help you grow faster. And you absolutely can grow fast. This is how you grow even faster. I promise you, I've seen student after student get results from simple exercises like this, but get even more long-term, like lifetime drumming results by implementing this into their playing and making it more practical, making it more musical, and figuring out, how does this help me play songs? That's exactly how. So I've given you the tips here. I want you to take this and I want you to run with it, because you can really do a lot with this. So my question for you as we go, where do you need to start? Are singles your weakness? Talking about kick drum singles, by the way. If we're talking about right, left singles, if that's a weakness, of course, target that. Just practice alternating singles before you dive into this exercise. But are kick drum singles your weakness? Is that where you need to focus? Go check on that previous lesson. Go check that out. I've got it in the description. It was just a couple months ago. Dive into that, and we talk all about foot placement and strategy with getting smooth singles with your right foot, so that you don't have to try as hard to sound smooth on the kick drum. That might be your golden ticket. Or you might be ready for what we're talking about, what we talked about today. Practicing this exercise and locking in your right foot with your hands. That might be it. So take action now. Practice this, and then go the extra mile and figure out, how can I make this more practical? How can I use this? How can I apply this to songs? That's where you really succeed, because then you start to improvise and you start to use that creativity that you have. You have creativity there deep down inside of you that maybe you just haven't tapped into yet. You do have an ear. You might not feel like you've got a great ear, but it's just because you haven't used it yet. Be intentional. Be intentional with listening. Go and listen to music. Hey, that's huge. Listen to music. Listen to the things going on in songs. And believe it or not, that helps you with hearing what you're doing when you're practicing. And that'll keep you motivated and inspired on top of that. We can talk about this for hours. That's ultimately a topic for another video, how to build coordination just by listening to music. But it's so true. So go take action. I hope this has been super helpful to you. Go and grow. I want you to be able to play any kick drum pattern that comes your way. Know that you can do this. I'll see you in the next video. Stay non-glamorous.